Hi, my name is Nick, and today's tooltip is going to be on Import Object Wizard. Decorating your interior space in the Visioneer is very easy with the elements that populate the catalog. However, different designs may require furniture or elements that are not a part of the catalog. You can fix this by importing elements in DWG, 3ds, IFC, or SKP format. Searching for blocks online can be easy as typing in the element you want and then searching through the search results. We're going to look at importing a SketchUp block in the SKP format that we have created. To do this, we're going to first go to File, Import, and we're going to select the Object Wizard. This will then bring up the Select element for your main parameters. So here we're going to give the object a name. And in our dining room, we're going to create a little buffet table off to the side here. So I'm going to call this Buffet Table. And then I'm going to make sure that this is going to be under the elements tree that I want. So I don't want this to be an appliance. I want this to be an interior furniture. This is important because when I want to save this to the catalog, this will dictate where that element actually goes. Again, make sure it's going into the correct folder and make sure it's interior furniture. Depending on where you want this to go, you can also insert this on the location or on the terrain. By this one, we're going to insert it on the location. And then I'm just going to hit the select button. This will then allow me to specify the block that I actually want to import. And on my desktop, I've actually already got this buffet ready to go, and I'm just going to select Open. Once I hit Open, since we are importing a SketchUp block, it's going to ask me to force the import of the SketchUp block to be a single-sided. And I would always recommend to do this simply because it will help reduce the size of the block that you're importing. And to give you a little background on what this is, I'm just going to open up SketchUp real quick. In SketchUp, every element that you create has a front side and a back side. And what we're basically doing in Visioneer is we're saying we only want the front side. To determine what the front and the back side is in SketchUp, if you're creating your own blocks, simply go to View, Face Style, Monochrome, and you can actually see the actual faces themselves. So here we see a nice white face. This is telling me that this is the front face of the object. If I was to zoom inside, we would then see the interior side of this, and we can see that there is more of a purple hue to the blocks themselves, like this over here. That is telling me that that is the reverse side. So if you ever see an exterior side of a block and it is set up to have a face that looks purplish, that is going to be the wrong side. And when it comes into Visioneer, it will be invisible. You will see through it. So again, if you're creating the blocks yourselves, make sure that the white side is facing out. If it's a block that you found online, you can open it up in SketchUp and edit it to make sure that the faces are in the correct direction. And that way you're not going to be missing any faces themselves. And to do that, you simply select the face and reverse it, and it's going to the correct way. I'm just going to go back into Visioneer. So again, we're going to make sure that we have this set to single-sided. Select Next. And now it's going to show us the actual block. And I want this to be sorted by materials. If you're importing a DWG, it could be set to by layer or by material or by color. So you can adjust those as needed. But again, we're working with the SketchUp block, so it's going to be inserted by material. And the colors that you see here are what's going to denote the different materials. So we're actually able to give each of these colors a different material if we want to. I'm going to say Next. This is just going to give you the ability to orient the object in the view that you're working with. And the way I like to describe this is picture the red as being your floor and the blue as being your wall. So for example, I want the back of my buffet to be up against the wall. So I can actually rotate this around, all the way around so that I can see what side is going to be best up against the wall. And that is going to be this orientation here. I then click Next. And now it's going to ask you to control the component visibility in 3D. So here I can go through and specify the actual name and what I want to be visible in 3D. So by default, again, I created this block in SketchUp. So I created a 2D plan view, and I'm making sure that it's on the SketchUp Edges layer. So I'm just going to make sure that that says 2D plan view, and I do that by simply double-clicking in the edit box, and then I'm able to edit it. And I don't want this to be visible in 3D. So I'm just going to close the eye. Another thing I always do in my SketchUp block is I always leave a default SketchUp color. So one object or one portion of the drawing is always that default color. Because I can't delete it, it always comes in with a SketchUp block. I take advantage of that and just make sure it's actually a part of the block. So here I'm going to call this panel 1. And then you can start turning off elements so that you can see what they actually are. And I'm just going to call this sides. And then this one I'm going to call top and bottom. And then this one here, I'm going to call this one legs. So I'm just going through and naming these so that when I import it into Envisioneer, I can easily see and distinguish what each of these materials are. And this will be panel 2. And then this one should be panel 3. And then I simply click Next. Now it's asking you, what do you want to see in your 2D view? Now, I don't want to see all this information in my 2D view because I've created my own 2D plan view. I'm just going to have that visible. If you do not have a 2D plan view created, it's a block that you found online, you will have all of these eyes closed, and you'll notice you cannot click through. You will need to create your own plan view. And to do that, you can use the Add Outline, or you can create a slice. And the slice will allow you to slice through the object to create your 2D plan view of how that's going to be visible while you're working in your 2D plan view design. Again, I already have a plan view, so I'm just going to use that and click Next. Now I'm going to select Finish, and attached to my cursor is that buffet table. And I'm just going to drop it in, and now I can select it and rotate it around where I want it to go. And I'm just going to move that into place like so. I'm going to quickly go into a 3D view into the dining room. And I can see here now that I have my buffet table in my design, but it's using the wrong materials. I can fix that by simply double-clicking on it. And then under the appearance, I can go in and start editing the actual elements within that block. So I'm going to select all of these options here. And I'm just going to give it the same wooden material, or I could go through and specify different elements, different materials for different elements. So first I'm going to go in and select the material. And we're just going to use a wood material here. So I'm just going to go to cabinetry, and I'm just going to select the, we'll go to cabinet mantle stains, and I'm just going to select a dark stain and say OK. The other thing you want to take advantage of is the mapping. So under mapping, you can specify how you want this to be mapped in your drawing. So by default, it's going to be set to predefined because it's coming from SketchUp. I actually want this to be set to box, and it will change the way that material looks. Now we can see the actual grain of the wood. Like I said, I could change this so I could have just the panels be a different color now because they are their own material. So let's say I want these to be like a white melamine shiny material. I can just go into finishes now for just those panels and say, I want you to be white, like so. So now I have more of a modern looking buffet table, and I can just say, okay. You can also go through and specify your line work. So if you want to make sure that the line work looks correct while you're working in your 2D plan views, because I want this to denote my interior furniture, I can just say interior furniture layer, and it will be blue in 2D. Under quantity, I can give it its own quantity information with its own part number. So if I want to do a quantity report on this, it will pull up the correct part number for me. And then I can also specify the behavior of the object so that if I always want it to snap to the back of the element, I can click the back, and it will always snap the back of that buffet table to my wall. And I can also elevate it so that it sits at the correct height. Since this is a buffet table, it's going to sit on the floor anyway, so we'll leave that at 0, and we'll say OK. And it's now adjusted that for me in my view, and I've created a brand new buffet table. Now, this buffet table is only a part of the drawing. To get this to be a part of my catalog, I need to go to File, Catalogs, and then Save Element to Catalog. So while I created this, when we were using the Import Object Wizard, I specified that I wanted to be a part of the Interior Furniture folder. When I click on this, it will then say, would you like to save the buffet table to the catalog? I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to ask, would you like to save anything else? I'm going to say no. And it's now saved that buffet table to the catalog under interior furniture.